Hi everyone, it's Mary from Lulu's Thyme and Essentials, and welcome to Vitamins, Minerals, and Herbs. This is part one, metabolism. When Lulu was looking to open her store and was showing me a little bit about herbs, essentials, I thought I knew a little bit, and I realized that there was a lot I didn't know. I didn't know a lot about these herbs, and I tried to really educate myself. And what I ended up doing is through hours and hours of looking at these different herbs, I realized a couple of different things. They really were vitamins, minerals that really work to make us the best us that we can be. And that's where I got really interested in, okay, well, how do I use herbs? Because it can get really confusing. So what I did is realize that they're vitamins and minerals. They're plant-based, some, with bark and seeds, but really they provide us with vitamins and minerals. And through that is really how we can, help try to restore some things. And then that pretty much led me to realize that metabolism is a huge part of it and really what happens. And I'll be the first to admit, I learned a lot about metabolism when I was in nursing school, and it was pretty amazing how much I forgot. So I hope this helps everyone, and I will try to keep it as really down to earth and simple as possible. And enjoy.
If you're interested in learning about herbs, it can get very confusing. The most important thing to realize is that herbs are vitamins and minerals, and we need vitamins and minerals for our metabolism. So, starting with metabolism is probably the best way to get an understanding of how you may want to use herbs. What's important to know is we are organisms. We are made up of cells, and cells and metabolism go hand in hand. To be considered a life form or a living organism, we need certain characteristics. One would be our being able to respond to our environment, our being able to reproduce, to adapt, to grow, and to develop. The other few things are energy production, which is metabolism at a cell level, homeostasis, and evolution. So, what do our cells do? Well, they actually have very specific functions, giving our bodies structure and support, helping our bodies continuously grow and regrow, and moving and producing energy inside and outside of our cells, reproducing by metabolic reactions. This energy is called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, and often it works with oxygen. It can without. Notice the word phosphate. It is a mineral. ATP is the energy that our body uses for things like nerve impulses, muscle contractions. It's what we need to stay alive at a cellular level. Just like we breathe air in and out, our cells actually breathe. And it is done through a process called cellular respiration. In this process, energy is converted from the foods basically that we eat, the carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, into this ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. And it's how we make energy. It's done with or without oxygen. Aerobic respiration, which is done with oxygen, yields the highest amount of ATP, or energy, but it can be done both ways. What is metabolism? It's a chemical reaction organisms need to make energy. The reason that we need energy is to respond to our environment, reproduce, adapt, grow, develop, produce energy, and homeostasis and evolution. We do this by eating food, having it broken down into proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, and then it's further broken down into nutrients at a cellular level. With metabolism, there are a couple of chemical reactions that are happening. You have something called catabolism, which large molecules are being broken down into small molecules and a little bit of energy is being produced. That typically is done without oxygen. And then you have anabolism, where small molecules are used to make large molecules, and energy is used in that process. So sometimes catabolism makes energy for anabolism to happen. What some examples would be are growing tissues, repairing cell damage, protein synthesis, which is really just making proteins, weightlifting, making muscles. In metabolism, we eat food, it goes into our digestive system. You have acids and enzymes that break down the food into micronutrients, which would be vitamins and minerals. With carbohydrates, they break down into glucose, triglycerides break down into fatty acids, proteins break down into amino acids. Then they all get broken down some more and go through a cycle. And then the electrons are transported in and out of the cells. So let's take a look at that. So when I start thinking about the process of energy, ATP, and how it's done, I personally like a very simple three-step process. There are a lot more steps and it's very complex. All I need to know is really certain things. In glycolysis, what happens? Well, it's called the catabolism of carbohydrates, meaning bigger molecules are broken down into smaller molecules through a series of chemical reactions. The purpose is still to get energy. Fats and proteins are also broken down to make energy as well. It's a long process. In the end, they're broken down by either aerobic or anaerobic respiration, meaning they're broken down either with oxygen or without oxygen. The Krebs cycle, very, very complex. I will break down for you. It is one of the cycles of metabolism, also called citric acid or tricarboxylic acid. You don't have to remember those names. What do you need to know? It's the first process of aerobic cell respiration, meaning this is where oxygen comes in. So once the glucose is broken down, it can move energy to different parts of your cells. So next what happens, the carbohydrates, fats, and proteins are broken down into those carbon dioxide chains and turns water into energy. We can store some of this energy. Typically, we know it as fat, but it can be stored. And then what would happen is you could have catabolism, meaning that glucose, that form of glucose, would be broken down, often without oxygen. Kind of like a little highway coming and going of energy. The next stage is something called oxidation of acetate. During this process, carbon is turned into carbon dioxide. The electron transportation chain is extremely complex. Let me break it down into some very easy to understand ideas. In the process, it uses enzymes, proteins. They work as catalysts, which means they can speed up a chemical reaction. In this chemical reaction, what's happening is electricity is moving. Electrons, which are negative charged particles, and through the chemical reaction, they're moving within your cells. It's important to know because it's how cells will live and breathe. It's how energy is made to carry out those original functions. And you get that by taking in vitamins and minerals, which can be through food, herbs. All this means is how we break down food to get energy for our cells. It is done through an extremely complex biochemical process, meaning a biological chemicals that we have in our bodies. So I have the diagram here if you want to look through it. Sometimes when you're researching things, you may hear it's a cofactor or a coenzyme. So I've included the definitions, what they are. They're pretty much used in these chemical reactions and how they work. So they're parts of the chemical reactions. Some of them are catalysts. Some of them are needed to bind, often with a protein. And again, it's for making energy. Just to review, this process is going on in every cell. It's going on in our body. We are filled with similar cells that become tissues, similar tissues that become organs, a group of organs that become a system, and a group of systems that makes us up. The other piece I included is what a free radical was. A lot of us, especially if you've seen commercials about skincare, have heard of these free radicals. Well, what happens is oxygen splits into a single atom through some processes, and you have something called an unpaired electron, which is why I talked about electrons, and also oxidation. Antioxidants will pair with these unpaired electrons so they don't go through the process of trying to damage your cell's DNA and protein. And herbs and vitamins and minerals can help our bodies get what we need as well as fresh food. In case you forgot all the systems in our bodies, there's a nice little chart here for you to look at. Herbs will tend to work with different systems. Every system has a job, and every system is important. So what does our integumentary system do? Well, I think we all know it kind of holds our bones and organs in it, but what I want to get into is some other important things that it does. It protects your internal organs and structures from pathogens like bacteria and viruses. It prevents us from losing all the water in our body by staying alive. It conveys important information about our environment to our brain. It's actually kind of like a safety check. Information like heat and pain, cold, pressure. It helps us to stay safe and not become injured. It can also help regulate our body temperature. You know, if we are too hot, we will sweat. If we're too cold, we have goosebumps. It also stores fat and water to help insulate, and it's actually some place to store the fat for metabolism. Some other key concepts is the keratin. What happens is your hair and your nails contain keratin, and changes in your nail color and also your hair color, or the amount of hair, how your nails grow. It can actually be indicative of stress, malnutrition, some medical conditions. Keratin is a protein and it's found in your integumentary system, and it protects your skin by sticking to cells and creating kind of this protective layer. So what herbs are beneficial for this system? Calendula, lavender, plantain, yarrow, comfrey, rose, lemon balm. There are a few. Many of these herbs are for overall integumentary health or for conditions like poison ivy, for pain, for wound healing, for aging, or as natural preservatives. Our skeletal system gives our body a structure. Bones and cartilage make up the skeletal system. It helps us to move our bodies, make blood cells in the bone marrow, and store calcium. So let's talk about calcium. Well, I think we all know it's needed for our bones and our teeth. It's also needed in what's called calcium ion to regulate our heartbeat and how well it contracts. So really how well it pumps blood throughout our body. It's also responsible for the muscle contraction of our skeletal muscles. Um, are you starting to see the importance of vitamins and minerals? Our bones store red and yellow bone marrow. When we're young, we have a lot more red bone marrow. What that produces is stem cells. What they then become are red blood cells, white cells, and platelets. Yellow bone marrow stores fat. As we age, more of our bone marrow stores yellow bone marrow. So what is in yellow bone marrow? It has mesenchymal stem cells that are stored there. And these cells, they can form bone, fat, cartilage, or muscle. So vitamin D, calcium, they're known to help with bone health. So herbs that actually can help your skeletal system include herbs like nettle, oat straw, red clover, alfalfa, and horsetail. Our muscular system can help regulate our temperature, help with walking, make our organs work, circulate blood, and make digestion happen. So there's three types of muscles. You have the skeletal muscles, the ones that are attached to bones. They contract and they move our bones, letting us walk, chew, bend. Then we have smooth muscle. These muscles, they line our organs, our blood vessels, circulate blood, and they can make digestion happen. Then the third type is cardiac muscle. What that does is it pumps blood through our body, so it provides our cells with the materials that we need to stay alive. Our nervous system actually controls how fast to contract the muscle by electrical stimulation. So, what herbs would you take for muscles? If you want to improve circulation, you'd look for herbs that would help with circulation. If you want to improve your iron for oxygen circulation, you would look for herbs that can help your iron count. If you have sore muscles, you might use herbs to help with inflammation. So herbs like nettle, dandelion, parsley, they happen to be high in iron. Turmeric, an antioxidant effect on free radicals. Ginger is a good anti-inflammatory. And echinacea, that actually can promote healthy red blood cell production and can help your muscles. Our nervous system. Well, to think of it simply, our nervous system is kind of like a master computer. It organizes activities and information from our senses and transmits signals to the rest of our body to keep us in homeostasis. So, herbs that you would use on your nervous system, they kind of are classified into groups. The first group, which I like to use, they're called adaptogens. So what they do is they actually support the production of stress-related neurotransmitters. These are chemicals passing information in your nervous system and hormones. They're thought to help you feel less stressed and increase your energy level. And some will say they can actually possibly help you lose weight by decreasing your cortisol level. So what do these group of herbs do? Well, you have the calming ones. These herbs are often used for anxiety to calm you down, and sometimes they're used in combination with sedative herbs. Ashwagandha, holy basil, and gotu kola, there's some examples. Another group of adaptogens are the balancing ones. So these adaptogens, they kind of stimulate and calm at the same time. Maca, licorice, schizandra, there's some examples. Then you have some stimulating adaptogens. They are best taken in the morning. They're things like ginseng, um, Cotinopsis. There's some examples. Then there's another grouping called nervines. This group of herbs, they help your nervous system work in a calming and what some people call a lifting manner. They're not overly sedating. They just kind of can lift your mood. You can use them day or night. So herbs are, let's see, milky oat seed, St. John's wort, lemon balm, lavender, catnip, hawthorn. Those are some examples. Another group you have is relaxing sedatives. So these herbs, they're often used when you are just overwhelmed, oversensitive, or what I call burnt. Some of the signs that you might benefit from trying some of these herbs are panic attacks, agitation, insomnia. They are not recommended for depression. Motherwort, kava, a skullcap, and you'll also see skullcap spelled Scullcap, and passion flower. There are actually some examples. Then you have sedatives that really just help you sleep. Um, Most of the relaxing sedatives and nervines will help you sleep. This group is mainly just to help you sleep, and some of them are valerian, California poppy, and hops. Your endocrine system. Your endocrine system secretes hormones and regulates a lot of the activities to keep your body in homeostasis. Some of the glands that make up this system are your hypothalamus, your pituitary, your thyroid. What's important to know is each gland works on a specific system. But, for instance, your hypothalamus secretes chemicals controlling the release of hormones from your pituitary glands. Your pituitary is considered the chief gland. So some of the hormones it makes controls the other glands. They all kind of work together in a lot of ways. They're divided up into what's known as the exocrine and endocrine. And the purpose is to make and release substances to the rest of your body for it to function. Endocrine glands are typically hormones where exocrine glands are not. Saliva is an example of an exocrine gland. Herbs that you could use for your endocrine system could be herbs like astragalus, ashwagandha, licorice, raspberry leaf. What you'll notice is these herbs tend to work in a different way. Some on your reproductive system, some on your nervous system, your digestive system. Are you starting to see the connection? Different herbs can work on different systems. Some do overlap. Your cardiovascular system pumps fluid throughout your body and essential nutrients into your cells. The system includes cells, muscles, arteries, veins, and other vessels that branch out. So, what do? They circulate oxygen and nutrients to your cells. They maintain fluid balance. They help to prevent blood loss and infection, and they also help remove waste from your cells. Some of the herbs that are thought to help with the cardiovascular system are hawthorn, rose, motherwort, lemon balm, holy basil, valerian. Your respiratory system is made up of your nose, your mouth, your sinuses, pharynx, trachea, bronchial tubes, lungs, diaphragm, and something called cilia. They work with the cardiovascular system to deliver oxygen to your cells along with nutrients if you're talking about the cardiovascular system. It lets you help smell, talk. Your respiratory system removes waste like carbon dioxide, and the cilia are the little hairs that actually protect your airway. So what herbs can impact your respiratory system? Well, some will help with things like congestion, sinuses, help your throat, act as a tonic, and some can open up your lungs. Herbs like eucalyptus, oregano, peppermint, mullein, horehound, nettle leaf, licorice root, thyme, ginger, astragalus, and ashwagandha are common herbs used to support your respiratory system. Your lymphatic system is comprised of bone marrow, lymph nodes, your spleen, appendix, tonsils, adenoids, thymus, and some lymphatic fluid, as well as something called Peyer's patch. They're located in the small intestine. The main function of your lymphatic system is to filter dead cells, toxins, and bacteria, making cells called lymphocytes to fight infection, regulate protein concentrations in your lymph system, and absorb lipids or fats in the intestines. That's what these Peyer's patch do, and they transport them to the bloodstream. So some herbs that might help your lymph system would be things like red clover, calendula, burdock root, echinacea, chickweed, and cleavers. Your digestive system consists of your mouth, esophagus, upper GI or gastrointestinal tract, lower GI tract, your liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. Your upper GI tract is also known as your gut. Included are your stomach, your small intestine, which is your duodenum, your jejunum, and your ileum, your large intestine, which is your cecum, colon, and rectum. The main function of your digestive system is to break food down into smaller water-soluble molecules to feed your cells. So you chew your food, and you actually have salivary glands which produce an enzyme to moisten your food, and that's when the breakdown begins. When you swallow it, you go through your esophagus into your stomach. The lining in your stomach makes acid and enzymes to break the food further down. Your stomach muscles mix it or churn it. If you forgot what an enzyme is, they are proteins acting as catalysts to accelerate the biochemical process. Some digestive enzymes are lipase, amylase, and trypsin. Your pancreas makes enzymes which are released into the small intestine to continue the process. Your liver makes an acid called bile, and it's stored in your gallbladder. It is also released into the small intestine. So, what herbs are thought to help with your digestive system? Well, there's different reasons you might take it. You might take something called bitters, which are dandelion, burdock, turmeric. Some are soothing and healing herbs for your gut, like licorice root, calendula. And some are carminatives, which are for pain, gas, and bloating. And that's fennel, peppermint, and ginger. Your kidneys and your bladder, your ureters, and your urethra make up your urinary system. It's also known as the renal system. Its purpose is to regulate blood pressure and volume in your body by excreting fluid. It regulates electrolytes and metabolites. regulates your pH to keep homeostasis. And metabolites are sometimes they're drugs. They are molecules that are broken down. Herbs that are used for your urinary system are often diuretics, or sometimes people will take them if they have recurrent UTIs or urinary tract infections to try to prevent another one. Some common herbs include dandelion leaf, nettle, parsley, and burdock root. Your male reproductive system, the main purpose is procreation. There are some others. The systems include the penis, urethra, scrotum, testicles, prostate gland, vas deferens, epididymis, and seminal vesicles. Semen and male hormones are made in the system. Your pituitary gland controls the process. It secretes a hormone called follicle stimulating hormone, testosterone, and luteinizing hormone. These hormones will work on sex drive, sperm production, bone mass, muscle mass, fat distribution, and strength. So most of the herbs that work on this system are adaptogens, like ginseng, ashwagandha, maca, hawthorn, garlic. This one's a little complex, the female reproductive system. So in essence, the external parts are to help sperm enter and to try to protect you from infections. The internal organs, the main job is to fertilize and support the baby until delivery. Estrogen, progesterone, and yes, testosterone are the hormones made here. Your labia majora, your labia minora, your Bartholin's glands, and your clitoris are the external female organs. Your internal reproductive organs are your vagina, your uterus, ovaries, and fallopian tubes. Herbs often used for the female reproductive system include things like black cohosh, dong quai, motherwort, bee balm, ginger, garlic, and these herbs will support different things like menopause, period of pain, libido, tissue tone, your hormones, and any kind of probiotic support. So as you look into herbs a little closer, you're going to notice that they're grouped by their actions or what part of the body they benefit. They are vitamins and minerals, and their actions will benefit one or multiple systems or organs. Some of the terms you may hear are holistic self-care, balance in your body. What is herbalism and some of the herbal medicine concepts? One is that herbalism really simply refers to using plants therapeutically, and therapeutic is a term used for healing disease or preventing. And herbalism really encompasses studying and practicing using herbs medicinally. Some will also call it alternative medicine. The thought is it's a way to use the power of your own body to heal yourself. Not all of us need medicines, and we're relatively healthy, right? I like to equate this as a person who doesn't have any kind of medical conditions, but they take a baby aspirin every day to prevent a heart attack. I like to try to use herbs to try to keep my body in homeostasis, kind of like taking an aspirin or a multivitamin, but more naturally. Another thought is nature heals. Educate yourself. Herbs are, in essence, vitamins and minerals, and that's what our bodies need, right down to the cellular level. Don't just treat the symptom, look for the cause. If you have, say, headaches and you try to take Tylenol, Motrin, or you try to use some herbs and you just can't get it to go away, well, you go to the doctor or your healthcare professional. And what they do is they try to look for the cause. So you might have some blood work, you might have a CAT scan, things like that. It's not that different in herbalism. One thing is if you're going to use herbs, try to begin with the gentlest, safest, and most natural method. If you have a medical condition, I'll always encourage you to start with a professional. So now you have the basics of why herbs are actually very good to take because of metabolism. What do? Well, you decide if you're looking to use herbs to nourish, detoxify, if you have a specific problem, or a combination. I encourage you to find a certified herbalist and make sure you buy herbs that are either USDA or certified organic. because those are going to be the best quality herbs. The next thing is educate yourself. Be aware of some herbs with side effects. For example, a diuretic medication in dandelion. These are herbs that have the same effect. You could be increasing the potency, and with a diuretic, you could dehydrate yourself. Also, be very careful combining herbs and medications that have contrasting properties. For instance, if you're taking a blood thinner and a herb which clots blood. I hope that this has helped you, and I hope that you have enjoyed this. The next series will be vitamins. Thank you, and I hope you have a great time shopping for herbs.